Picture this. You work longer hours than your parents ever did, yet your savings evaporate faster than a summer rain. Groceries sting, rent devours half your check, and retirement feels like a myth. Coincidence? Hardly. In a world engineered for control, the state doesn't just tax you outright, it keeps you perpetually broke through subtle, interlocking mechanisms. Welcome to the Stateless Standard, your guide to unmasking how centralized power erodes freedom, one policy at a time. Today we will dissect the machinery, inflation's silent theft, forced loans, endless debt, and more. These aren't accidents, they're features. Knowledge is your first rebellion. Let's uncover them. It all begins with the root enabler, inflation. Far from a natural ebb of markets, inflation is the state's oldest trick, a deliberate devaluation of your money. When central banks conjure currency from thin air to fund deficits, the money supply surges while goods and services remain fixed. Result? Too many dollars chase too few resources, and prices climb. Your wages? They trail behind, eroded by what economists call the Cantillon effect. New money first enriches insiders, banks, governments, elites, before trickling to you as higher costs. Historically, Roman emperors clipped coins. Today, the Federal Reserve's quantitative easing does it digitally. A dollar that bought a loaf of bread in 1971 now fetches a fraction. Savers watch nest eggs shrink. Debtors like the government rejoice as old loans become easier to repay and cheaper money. For the average family, it's a stealth tax. Compounding annually, it widens inequality. The rich, holding appreciating assets, ride the wave. Everyone else drowns. But when inflation alone falls short, the state turns your savings into its unwilling arsenal. Enter forced loans, the compulsion to finance the state's appetites. This isn't voluntary charity, it's mandate by regulation. Trace it back to 13th century Venice, where citizens were legally bound to purchase prestiti bonds for the Republic's wars. In 17th century England, kings like Charles I seized private wealth as loans without consent, sparking civil unrest. Fast forward, today's version is polished but no less coercive. Banking rules, reserve requirements, capital mandates, and pension fund guidelines channel trillions into government bonds. Banks must hold them as safe assets. Your 401k or IRA? Often parked there by default. Yields, laughably low, often below inflation's bite, meaning your money works for the state, not you. Interest rate caps keep borrowing cheap for Washington, while private loans for homes or businesses cost you more. It's a captive market. Liquidity flows to public debt first, starving innovation. In libertarian terms, this violates property rights, treating savers as ATMs for empire building. Break the chains? Deregulate finance. Let markets price risk freely. Suddenly, your dollar earns what it's worth, not subsidizes endless spending. These loans don't end, they evolve into perpetual debt, the system's beating heart. Born in 1694 with the Bank of England's charter, governments learned to borrow indefinitely for wars and welfare, rolling over principal rather than repaying. Bonds become risk-free havens, snapped up by institutions and the wealthy who collect interest from your taxes. Deficit spending seals the loop. Spend beyond revenue? Issue more bonds. Buyers, from foreign central banks to your grandma's IRA, keep rates low, but servicing that debt now devours budgets like a black hole. In 2025, U.S. interest payments alone rival defense spending. Shocks like recessions supercharge it via bailouts. Remember 2008? Trillions funneled to too-big-to-fail giants, socializing losses while privatizing gains. Moral hazard blooms. Execs gamble big, knowing taxpayers foot the bill. Pensions compound the trap. Pay-as-you-go schemes where today's workers fund yesterday's retirees. Aging populations and low birth rates strain it. Reforms mean delayed retirements or slashed benefits. The fix? End the monopoly on money creation. Sound alternatives like competing currencies would force fiscal discipline, not endless IOUs. Layer on stealth taxes, the invisible hands picking your pocket. Sales taxes hide in prices. Bracket creep inflates you into higher rates without real raises. Inflation itself? A tax on cash, punishing fixed incomes while easing government debts. Then quantitative easing. Central banks hoover up bonds with fresh printed money, slashing rates and inflating assets, stocks, real estate, for the already affluent. The bottom 90%? Left with crumbs as homeownership slips and wages stagnate. Inequality isn't market failure, it's policy design. Regulatory capture cements it. Industries lobby for rules that entrench giants. hiking barriers to entry and passing risks to you. War finance turbocharges all this. Temporary hikes become permanent fixtures, debts from conflicts like Iraq lingering for decades. Finally, weaponized complexity, the fog of fees and fine print that ensures you overpay. Overdraft charges, hidden credit card traps, bloated mortgage disclosures, all legal, all disclosed in 50-page tomes no one reads. Small savers can't compete, they default to costly defaults. It's a tax on confusion, subsidizing the sophisticated. Simplify? Markets would demand transparency, slashing these leeches. There it is. Inflation's erosion, forced loans, perpetual debt, bailouts, stealth taxes, QE's favoritism, capture, war burdens, and complexity's maze. Each a cog in the machine keeping you broke, funneling your labor to state coffers and cronies. In an ANCAP world, we'd dismantle these. End central banks, privatize pensions, deregulate finance. Wealth would flow to value creators, not enforcers. The state doesn't serve, it extracts. But you can resist. Start by questioning the narrative. If this hit home, subscribe to the Stateless Standard for more unfiltered truths on reclaiming sovereignty. Comment, which mechanism drains you most? Share to wake others. Until next time, guard your wealth fiercely. Stay stateless. Stay free.